Welcome back to another segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. Today, I'm taking up more of your questions in another segment of Ask Judy. If you enjoy these segments, please do hit like and subscribe. I wanted to share with all of you that I'm going to be doing a stage production of On Golden Pond in June in Big Bear Lake, California. I will be starring with Don Most, who you'll remember from Happy Days. And of course, Don and I have done a few shows together in the past. Always love working with him. And he was actually the one who recommended me. So I am very excited about that. So if any of you are going to be in the West Coast area, would like to come out and see us, I'm putting the information here up on the screen of how you can get more info about tickets and show dates. It'll be starting June 18th and running till June 28th. So just a couple of weekends up there. So make your plans. I have a question here from Paintings by Jim Hall, who says, Marion, and we're talking about Marion Hamner Hawks here, Earl Hamner's sister, who said she came and visited the set and she got to be in a scene. And so I asked the question if anybody knew what scene she was in. So Jim said that she was in The Odyssey, where Sarah Jane had a baby and John Boy delivered it. And Ike addressed her in the store as Marion, and she didn't have any speaking part, but we don't really see her face here. We just kind of see her from the side, but I certainly have no reason to disagree that this was Marion. It would have been easier if I could see her face, but there you go. Marion Hamner Hawks in The Odyssey. He also said it was disappointing that Richard wasn't in the episode. I'm not sure if you meant the scene, but he was certainly in the episode since he delivered Sarah Jane's baby. This question is from Marky Mark, who is asking a question about the homecoming in the scene where all the kids run to the door believing it is their dad, but it's Charlie. And when the kids are obviously disappointed that it isn't their dad, Charlie says, Dana Money, and comments that he usually gets a big welcome around there. I asked a few years ago what or who Dana Money would have been back in that time period. To this day, nobody seems to know, and I have looked on the internet and didn't find an answer. Does anybody out there know? So I did a little bit of checking, and the answers I got was that it's likely a very slurred version of Ain't I the Money or Down on the Money, often slurred to something like Dana Money. In older Southern or rural speech, especially with fast drawl and vowel flattening, down on the can sound like Dana. Money stays pretty clear. So he's down on the money, meaning broke or short on cash, can come out sounding like he's Dana Money. And also that if I'm got no money, it's like I'm out of luck, nobody cares about me, that sort of thing. So that's what I was the closest I could come to what that sort of older rural slang might have been. But it wasn't in the script. So that would have been an ad lib of William Windom's. Rachel O. Tremba said, Judy, I found a bit of a goof in an episode in season 4, episode titled The Test. It happens pretty soon after the episode starts when John Boy and Grandma and Grandpa are talking about the new rocking chair they made, and Maude Gormley comes up the front porch steps, and the actress, Marie Earle, said she is there to see Bertha. And she was talking about her goat Myrtle and mixed the names up. The actress is seen looking up, a bit exasperated with herself, I guess, and the other actors continue with the scene. Do you have any thoughts on this moment? I thought it was a cute little moment, and I'm glad they left it in. So I took a look at that, and as you see here, she approaches and she says this line as she's heading toward the stairs.
I came to visit with Bertha.
And then it's as if, yes, she catches that, oh, that's not the right name. And she kind of, puts her head up and puts her hand kind of on her chest and sort of shakes her head, but keeps going. So it played like any one of us might make a silly mistake and go, oh, that's not what I meant. But, people are continuing on, so we don't stop to correct it. So there wasn't necessarily a reason to go back and do it again. It worked. They may not have realized that she said that. might not have been caught, but then when they saw it, it may have only had one take, or that was the best take, and they thought, it's kind of cute. Who cares? So I think things like that, I think you're right, that it's great that they leave it in because it adds another layer of authenticity to characters and it helps us believe that these are real characters, real people in real life situations. And let's face it, we all make mistakes. Andrea Crash asked me this: in everything that you've been in, movie, TV, theater, events, game shows, etc., is there any outfits that you hated to wear or have a malfunction with? If there is one or lots more, can you list them and maybe get your wonderful son to research and find them and have them edited in as well? So in terms of, I don't remember any particular serious malfunctions or anything like that. I might have blanked them out if they happened, particularly if it was live. But I do know, I remember when I was doing Hello Dolly, and I had quick changes are the things that are tricky because you're hurrying. You have to get back on stage by a certain point. And so you're scrambling to change clothes or do whatever. And I remember there was a point where I had a very quick change. I think it was right at the end of the show. And I didn't quite get like my skirt hooked. It had big hooks on the back. And so when I came out, it was like, oh, that's not quite. And I could feel it kind of slipping. So I just kind of found a way to sort of get it and hook it so that it didn't fall off. But I remember having attention on that when you're trying to do something, or in a musical where you might come on and then you might be singing and dancing and you're hoping that you don't, your clothes don't fall off. So it can be, there can be moments. And I've certainly been in shows, in Hello Dolly in particular. There is a sequence where all the waiters dance. We always refer to it as the waiters gallop because that's what the music's referred to. And the pants that the waiters were wearing were not like costume pants that had been made with like sort of stretchy material or something like that. So I think they were regular sort of black pants or tux pants or whatever, because the waiters were supposed to be in, tux, coats and things like that, or red coats or whatever it was. But the pants were pants, and they were constantly, some of them, splitting the pants, like in the crotch. So guys would come running off stage. It's like, oh, shoot, pin me back in, and or something like that. So that was a little tricky because of some of their vigorous choreography with high kicks or split jumps or things like that. So there was a lot of repairs that went on, and went through a lot of pants on that show, but not mine. And then I did a sweet little show in Canada called Mentors. And I did an episode of that where I played a girlfriend of one of the lead characters. And I was only in the one episode, but sort of a new date kind of thing. And I remember when I went to the wardrobe fitting that I didn't particularly care for the wardrobe they put me in. And I remember the very nice wardrobe person said, well, put me in. So he said, well, do you like it? And I went, well, if it's right for the character, it's right for the character. It's not something I would wear or have in my own wardrobe. I didn't think it was super flattering on me, but that's not what it was about. And that kind of thing happens in shows, whether it's theater or film or television. You end up wearing things that you don't love, but they're right for the character. So you just kind of don't look in the mirror. It goes with the territory. So, and absolutely nothing wrong with the choices that the wardrobe person made. They were right for the character. And then I also would say that in the Waltons, the pregnancy pad, and I did another TV movie with a pregnancy pad as well. I don't like wearing pregnancy pads. They're uncomfortable. They're heavy. And just not a fan of them. And so I didn't love the various different episodes where I had to wear that. Andrea also asked, she said, what was your favorite outfits, etc.? Any outfits that you would have taken home to keep? Sometimes when I worked on shows, there was an option to purchase clothes, or sometimes you had the option to take pieces. They won when I worked on the Canadian series Bluff, because things had been bought for my character. The producer, who was a dear friend of mine, she said, if you want any of these pieces, you're welcome to them. So I did take home a number of those pieces. They were very smart. I was playing a judge, so they were very sort of upscale, smart outfits, some jackets and some pants I really liked. And so that was lovely. I loved that. I did a play one time that was a period piece. And afterwards, for some reason, I really liked this big sort of pink that dress that came with a hoop skirt. I didn't get to keep the underskirt, but I did purchase that from them. And I thought that it might be fun to have. And I did wear it here and there for, maybe a costume party or something like that. So things like that. Sometimes when I did shows and there were pieces I particularly liked, I did see if I was given the option to take them. There were some things I would have liked to have taken, but they were like, no, we want this to go into our wardrobe stock. And that's pretty much what happened with the Waltons too, was anything that we wore on the Waltons when this episode was over, or we weren't. I mean, for us, we re-wore things during the season and over the seasons, those of us in the regular cast. So, but sometimes season to season, they might add some new things to our wardrobe or remove some things maybe as the period changed and they were sort of moving forward with, as we got older, a little more mature, the outfits we were wearing. I did have some favorite Walton ones, and I may address that sometime in a separate segment. So thanks for asking. CJ Rudin said, I can't help noticing that the window on the shed that faces the house on the exterior shots isn't in some of the interior shots. For example, take a close look at, he was referring to the segment where I'm talking about the shed, and it was in the episode The Yearning when Elizabeth is bringing flowers. The window isn't there. I'm sure the walls are removable for various shots and that this was just an oversight. Yeah, interesting. I took a look back at that and I looked at a number of different segments and things like that were inside the shed. And when we got to, when we were shooting actually in the shed, then of course that window was always there. When we were shooting on the soundstage and that was happening with the shed, then most of the time I did see that window. So yeah, that's an interesting question about why it wasn't visible and why that camera angle made it look like there wasn't a window there. So I don't know whether they did just put in a different piece of wall section for some reason and didn't realize they were supposed to put one in that had a window there. So it is entirely possible that happened, or it was just the angle of the camera that was sort of blocking where the window was, but the window was pretty close to the corner, which is why you're asking that question. So likely some sort of an error. This question is from Lori, who said, while you refer to all the other family members by their character names, you keep referring to Mary Ellen as I. I came in, I did this, I did that. You should have referred to Mary Ellen by her character name too, as of course she is not you. I think that I often bounce back and forth between referring to the character as Mary Ellen, but since I'm also talking sometimes about choices I was making or things I was being asked to do, I think that's when I kind of say I did this or I did that, because although I'm playing a character, I am the one playing the character. So I guess sometimes it feels more accurate to me. It's nice I say both, Mary Ellen, I, me, Mary Ellen. So if it's confusing to you, I apologize. But I can't guarantee that I'm always going to refer to Mary Ellen as Mary Ellen. Thank you for joining me for this segment of Ask Judy. I will be back with more behind the scenes of the Waltons and more of your questions and another Ask Judy and more special guests. Thanks for watching.